This case should never have come to trial.
I don't think it's fair to call my clients frauds. Because one time I turned into a dog and they helped me. Thank you.
Your Honor, we would like to withdraw our plea of not guilty and enter a plea of guilty.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery, of a sham, of a mockery, of a travesty, of two mockeries, of a sham.
If we are to have faith in justice, we need only to believe in ourselves.
And the truth shall set you free!
How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Oh, guilty, but with a real good excuse.
I think the truth will come forth.
You can't handle the truth!
Hello, podcast listeners all around the world. It's time for more Law Light, brought to you by Foreman Watson Holtry, FWHlegal.com. Today, one of us is at the two-story white brick edifice in Owensboro, Kentucky. That would be PJ.
Hey.
PJ, are you there?
I am.
Yep, okay. Are you in the library studio conference room?
I am, and there's a bunch of papers and stuff laid out as if somebody was in here doing something or may still be doing something, so I'm hoping that I'm not interrupting anyone hard at work.
Those are my notes from the deposition that I was in on Wednesday, and I was waiting to sit down and go through all of it with Amy, so no worries.
Okay, good deal.
You're good.
Okay,
yeah. Perfect. And our listeners probably have figured out by now that I am not with PJ. I am currently driving through Butler County, Kentucky on my way home. I've been at the Bowling Green office all day today, so I am en route. And I was there doing interviews. PJ, I've been interviewing people for a new legal assistant in Bowling Green.
How'd that go?
So it went well. I had 5 interviews today. I've got 2 people from that group, and then I have a couple more tomorrow that I'm going to do by Zoom.
Now I know why you're not here. Bowling Green is they have such a beautiful office.
Right. I spent the day at the real edifice of the firm.
Yeah.
Bowling Green. We have a gorgeous office there, as you know. But anyway, today did the interviews. I'm on my way back Bowling Green, from Bowling Green, and like I said, I'm cutting right now in Butler County. So, few things to report, PJ. First, let's just get this out of the way. My cousins were a little bit on edge, I guess, about comments that I made in the last podcast.
That's what I heard.
I wish they would just look. Yeah, it was like they all were wearing their emotions on their sleeves about the comment that I made that, well, since none of them got back with me, I guess they're all agreeing that I'm the most interesting. They had some snide lawyer remarks and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't know. I will say this, that it's all been in good fun, and I'm sorry they couldn't be good sports about my comments. If they gotta quit being childish about things like this,
right. So what you're saying is that really all this drama is just their fault. They can't take a joke.
Yeah, they stirred it up. Right. It's all them. Right. I can show you the text messages. I mean, they're just being so trite.
Well, none of them have texted me since, so I may be on the outs.
No, you're not. You're not. And here's why I know you're not. Yesterday or the day before, I sent them the proofs for the new law firm T-shirts.
Right.
Okay? That you and I designed, that you came up with the slogan for, and so I was sending it to them to say, hey, who wants some of these when we get them back here in a couple weeks? And a couple of my cousins were like, hey, I want one, and they'd say what size, and then they were like, and I want PJ to sign mine. So,
geez.
Yeah, right. So they want
That's
your
funny.
autograph on the T-shirt. I think maybe what it is that, they like you a whole lot better than me now, and you're their guy.
Yeah.
And but anyway, we'll hook them up. Our new T-shirts. For any of our listeners that want one, you have to email either me or PJ, or call us or send us a text.
Yep.
And we'll hook you up. They'll be here by the end of August.
Well, it's
okay?
like I said after we were leaving, because we did it in here in the conference studio and library studio, and
we did what? Design the new t-shirt?
Yeah, with the new T-shirts. And if you remember, I turned around, and looked at you, and I said, "These are going to go fast." And so
they are going to go fast.
Last night, I was a guest on another podcast, and the host is Wes Johnson from the library. And I was talking, not on the podcast, but before the podcast, we were talking about certain things, and we were talking about a shirt he had on, and I mentioned the shirts that we're doing, and he was like, "Here's my size. I want one when they come in." I didn't even have to ask him if he wanted one. He was like, "That's what your T-shirt's going to be. I want it. I want one." And I was like, "All right."
I'm excited about them. The only thing is, and I don't know if this is COVID related or if it's, the cost of making a T-shirt and getting a T-shirt that's halfway decent quality has gone way up.
Oh yeah.
I'm paying for like 300 of them, what I used to be able to get 500 for.
Yep.
And and so we're gonna see how well we do with the 300 we ordered, and then if we need to order more, we will. I mean, every one of them is a mobile billboard, if you think of it that way.
Right.
And so we're it's a good marketing thing. But I also want to tell you that my cousin Ernie said, wait a minute, you and PJ need to design a Law Lite t-shirt, a podcast t-shirt. And I think we need to do that as well. So maybe if we got to reorder the current 2022 t-shirts, if we sell out of those, we may also at the same time, because you get a cheaper price the more you order, we may do maybe 150 or 200 of the Law Lite podcast t-shirts.
Right.
So
okay.
Yeah,
I could do that. That would be cool.
About the slogan for those. Yeah, you have to start thinking about I guess maybe we need to use the one that's on, what is it? Law Done Lite or something like that, or Law Done Right or something.
Great law, less legal. Law Done Lite.
Yeah, we probably need to put that on there somewhere. But anyway.
I think you're going through a dead zone.
Yeah, we're going. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
There's a place here where really close where Butler County turns into Ohio County, and the signal is terrible. So it's possible I'll lose you again, but we'll just work through that. Okay.
Well, that's what they say. Butler County, where phone calls go to die.
Muhlenberg County is where you get away with murder, right? Or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
A couple of things. I got a lot of interesting responses last week. You may remember one of the topics we discussed was a lawsuit. A sportscaster, so to speak, was on the sideline at a football game, and the players in the continuation of a play ran across out of bounds and hit him and caused him some injuries. I had probably 10 people reach out to me about that. What's interesting, and the reason I wanted to touch on this real quick was each of them said, I'm sure that they could have easily had something for them to sign saying, look, I know there's some inherent risks with standing this close to it, and I assume those risks. If I'm injured, then it's my responsibility, that type of thing.
Right.
And I thought that was interesting. Kentucky's law tends not to favor the release of liability unless it's in like an ultra hazardous event. Like if you're going to bungee jump, obviously there's a chance of being injured, and you can't sue them if you get injured.
Right.
It's an ultra. But in situations of just ordinary negligence, in a lot of states, including Kentucky, there's some fairly significant constraints on your ability to waive liability or waive negligence. But I thought it was interesting that hearing the perspective of lay people on, isn't that something he should have known could happen, and shouldn't that have been something he signed? I just thought it was interesting that was the analysis when people heard the story.
I feel like most people would look at it that way.
I think you mentioned something about it, like, well, wait, couldn't they have had him sign something? And in the future, I'm sure that's what'll be done. as we discussed, especially on some of the bigger programs where there's a lot of people on the sidelines and stuff.
Right.
So anyway, I did want to. We did get some good feedback on that. Today, I want to venture into another little headline, legal related, interesting scenario that occurred, and it happened out in Orange County in California, okay, in Los Angeles. And I sent you the link, and you said you got it, right?
Yes, I did. I read the story.
I don't have the story in front of me. I don't know if you printed it or if you have it, but to give a breakdown of...
You're cutting out.
All right, hold on.
Oh,
Hold on.
all right, now I can hear you.
Hold on. Out in California, out in Orange County, there was a medical malpractice case against a gastroenterologist who had allegedly caused the death of a patient as a part of a surgery that he performed, right?
Yep.
And okay, and so the gentleman that passed away, his doctor. So the family sued the doctor, saying that he negligently performed the surgery and that it caused the father's death. The case went through an entire jury trial, and the jury stayed out for 26 minutes. 26 minutes, the jury stayed out. The jury came back and ruled in favor of the surgeon. So the attorney that represented the doctor, the surgeon, he was back at his office, and he posted a celebratory video, which was put on all of the law firm's social media. It's on Instagram, it was on Facebook, it was on Twitter, and on the website. Did you watch the video?
Yeah, I did watch the video where he's like standing in front of that computer, has the girl ring the bell.
This attorney goes back to his law office, has all of his staff members and other lawyers there, and he does this video. Now, the video that was attached to the article is only half the video, because in the part that's now no longer available, he said, I
actually have it right here. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah. Read what he said.
Well, I have it. Well, the way they have it started is saying, guy that was probably negligently killed, but we kind of made it look like other people did it.
So he's saying that the guy was negligently killed, i.e. the surgeon negligently killed him.
Probably.
But we made it look like, yeah, probably. and then he says, but we made it look like other people did it.
Yeah.
Right? Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay. And then he says some other things like it was a record. They were only out 26 minutes, and we had a death certificate that said that we caused it, and we were able to go against that, and we did, basically a bunch of he was touting, his verdict. And then the woman walks over and rings the victory bell, I guess, or something like the ding, ding, ding. All is fine and good until the trial judge, the judge that had presided over the trial, sees the video. And the trial judge says, not so fast, my friend. There's a difference between reporting your victory and then, what did he say? What was the exact quote? Do you have it there?
The judge says that seems like an admission of negligence.
That's right.
Seems like an admission
says,
the plaintiff should have prevailed.
That's right. And so he declares the verdict void and says it's a mistrial and it's going to be set for a new trial. Now, you read the article. Is there anything else before we start discussing this? Is there anything else we need to add as far as facts?
Yeah, I'm not saying anything specific.
Now, he took the video down.
Right.
And he said something like, he tried to say, I had no idea it was going to get put out on all the public stuff. I thought this was something internally, which I don't believe that for a minute. But anyway, he tried to make it look like it wasn't nearly as intended to be public as it ended up being.
Right.
But it doesn't matter. The judge saw it. The judge made a ruling, and the case has been overturned. What are your thoughts about that?
A lot of thoughts about this, and I have a lot of mixed feelings. I'm going to start. Here's where I'm going to start. Okay, so double jeopardy. If you're found innocent of whatever, I've always been told that when the trial is over, that's what double jeopardy is. You cannot be tried for the same exact thing, right?
Yeah, that's criminal cases, but yeah.
Okay,
you're right.
so like if someone was on trial for murder and they were found innocent, and then they went out in the streets and went, haha, guess what? I did kill them. You couldn't be tried for the same thing, so you'd get away with it.
Right. The one thing I want to make sure we don't get on the slippery slope of is there's always an analysis as to whether there are any appealable issues. Anytime a trial is over, you can look back and say, well, did the judge make a mistake in allowing so-and-so to testify about such and such? What did the judge improperly allow a juror to continue as a juror, even when we know that he did his own research? I mean, there's these things that make a case appealable, and you can appeal to the next level. You can take it up to the next level and let them look to see if there's any appealable issues. Now, they're not allowed to disturb the factual findings of a verdict, but they are allowed to disturb legal findings made by the court. So I don't want to get confused in the fact that even in this case out in California, let's assume the guy didn't do the celebratory video. The plaintiffs could have appealed the case to the Court of Appeals if there were some legal mistakes made during the course of the case. The true idea of double jeopardy is true. You can't be tried twice for the same set of charges. Okay, so that's that. I hope that helps clarify that.
Okay, well then this is where my mixed feelings come in. So they go through this trial. Now the guy either did it, he actually did do malpractice, or he didn't. Now, of course, I'm sure if it was it's not like when he inserted this feeding tube and pierced this guy's colon, he wasn't meaning to do that. I think I lost him again.
Hello.
Third time's a charm.
Yeah, you're right. This is a negligence case. Nobody claimed that the doctor intentionally took the feeding tube and jammed it into the guy's colon. Okay.
So what this lawyer, though, is saying is that he's saying it wasn't the doctor who did it. It was, like he said, it was someone else. It could have been someone else, or it could have been this doctor. But regardless of that, this attorney convinced a jury that it wasn't him, right?
Right.
Now, here's where my mixed feelings come into play. Let's assume for a second that it was a nurse that did it and not this doctor, okay? So he's probably sweating this entire trial going, this could go either way, and I'm going to get in trouble for something I actually didn't do. Well, then justice was served, right? And they determined that he didn't do it. Well, then this attorney goes and makes this video and could have been just being a braggart, right? And made these comments recklessly. And what he's done now is he's put this guy back in the same position where he is going to have to go through the same process again. He wasn't going to get in trouble or penalized for something that he actually didn't do. But now, because of what this attorney did, now he's back on the stand again, and he's going to be sweating it out going, well, now I might get in trouble for something that I'm not responsible for.
You're correct.
But then there's the flip side. What if this attorney was bragging, which was what he was doing, but he was using information that he did know, which was that the gastroenterologist was like, yeah, I actually did do it. It was me, but it's your responsibility to get me off the hook.
Or to defend me. Right.
Or
to make it look
right. And so this guy was actually just saying, like, he's guilty, and we convinced him he's innocent. So now, once again, now this guy's back in a position where justice might actually be served because he wasn't in trouble for something that he did do. So that's where I have mixed feelings, because either the guy's going to end up potentially getting in trouble for something that he's not guilty for, or the flip side, which is justice will be served because now he might actually get penalized because he did cause this individual to die.
Well, let's add a couple more layers of paint to the picture, okay?
That's a lot of paint.
A lot of times in medical malpractice cases, when an attorney is trying to determine what caused the mishap, there are various viable explanations for it, okay? How can somebody leave the hospital and not know that they had cancer on a film that was done in the hospital. Okay? Well,
Right.
one way is that the radiologist didn't communicate it right. One is that the radiologist did it right, but the doctor that ordered the test didn't look at it and didn't report it. Another explanation is that the nurse saw it and failed to tell the doctor, hey, you may want to take a second look. But there's 3 people or more in that scenario that allegedly contributed to this guy leaving the hospital without knowing what is on his x-ray or on his scan. Okay, so when you are determining who to bring the lawsuit against in a malpractice case, a lot of times you name 4 or 5 different doctors or 4 or 5 different, a nurse, a doctor, a ER doctor, a radiologist. In this case, it could have been a surgical assistant, a surgeon, a second doctor. There are different defendants a lot of times, and here's what happens. A lot of times before a trial, you will settle your case against the defendants that really think that they were liable. They'll buy their piece. They'll get out. So by the time you get to trial in a medical malpractice case, sometimes you're left fighting against the person you had the weakest case against. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
So
yeah.
you settle the case against the doctors or the entities that probably were the most on the hook because they're willing to pay money to get off the hook, all right, to settle. So you're left, by the time the trial comes around, to the person saying, look, I didn't have anything to do with this, and I'm willing to let a jury figure that out, okay? And so we don't know in this case if before this trial, other doctors or other defendants had bought their piece and settled. We don't know that. And if I knew that there were other doctors that had bought their piece and settled, it would make what that attorney said to me seem a lot more true. You see what I'm saying? That
right.
Well, yeah, there was probably somebody else. He probably was negligent in some way, but other people could have done that. We made it look like other people did it. It's a lot easier to make it look like other people did it if other people did do it and they bought their piece, you see?
Right.
So the first thing that I think the layer of pain I'd add to it is, were there other defendants that got out of the case before the trial? Okay? The second thing that I think is important to remember is that when that judge unilaterally decided that he was going to overturn the verdict and declare it a mistrial, that decision right there in and of itself can be appealed to the Court of Appeals. The attorney for the doctor can say that the trial judge went beyond his discretion. He went outside of what he's allowed to do, and that issue alone can be ruled upon by the Court of Appeals. While the judge does have a lot of power to do something like this, like obviously he did, that's not the end-all and be-all.
And so his decision to throw it out and try to start over can be thrown out itself.
It can be appealed and overturned, correct?
Right.
Correct. And while that issue is being appealed, any other appellate issues from the verdict are on hold. So here's the bad thing. There's a lot of remedies, but no matter what the remedy is, it's going to take a lot more time. It's going to take a lot more money. And, all the parties, the doctor, the daughters of the deceased, they're all, you're kind of are on hold for a long time to get some conclusion to a matter that took the jury 26 minutes to figure out.
And that was the other thing too, is that they were trying to say that I guess the attorney had also made a welcome to America comment, that they were considering kind of a jab at, I guess, the Latin American community or whatever. They're saying that the fact that it only took the jury 26 minutes to deliberate is that they were emotionally influenced by that, so there was some like anti-Hispanic sentiment going on.
I didn't read the article close enough. I read the headline of the article, and then I read the summary, like kind of the summary of it, and then I watched the video because I was doing this in between the interviews today. That's why I wanted to send it to you, and I didn't pick up on that, and that's interesting. Yeah,
his new the doctor's new attorney I want to say his new attorney, which I think his last name is like Nelson. But anyway, he was saying a lot of things, and one of which was that his previous attorney, none of what he said was founded factual information. It was just him bragging, and that he recklessly made these statements.
Wow.
So that's what the new defense is currently, is to, there's a lot of factors in this. It's very complicated.
The one thing it taught me, one of your biggest tendencies as a lawyer, lawyers are high strung if they're trial lawyers. Okay, I'm telling you, you've got to have a side of you that is just willing to lay it on the line when money like that is concerned, and really put it is grueling emotionally. Okay, and when you win, you want to tell the world, man. And you want to share it, and you are on a high, okay? Right. It is like, I can't describe that high, but it is a high. You're like, all your hard work, your hours and hours and hours of preparation and living the case and driving from town to town and flying, and it's just, when it all comes to a head and you win, there is this, it's unbelievable. And in that moment, okay, I'm not saying that the guy's comments are right, but I know where that guy was coming from. I have been there. I have wanted to tell the world about my verdicts, okay? And so the lesson I learned when reading it was, you've got to really practice some constraint there, you know, because it could end up costing you a client. It could cost you some disciplinary issues, and it could cost you a good verdict. I get a lot of this stuff sent to me. When I saw this one, I was like, oh yeah, that's podcast worthy there. That one needs some discussion.
Well, the other thing too I've thought of in terms of like the attorney is, I'm guilty on many occasions of sticking my foot in my mouth when I'm just trying to make levity of a serious situation, where I say something that not only am I not being serious about it, but can also, if the right person is listening to it, or they don't understand the context of the joke, it can be misconstrued to be something that it's not. So when I watched the video of the attorney making these comments, part of me was like, is he making some of these comments almost as like an inside joke to the people who are his audience, which are his legal team and the people in the law firm, and somebody just happened to be recording this? And once again, now we're only seeing a portion of the entire situation. So then it appears to be something that it's really not. Like it was just him making some maybe some snide comments or jokes, but they weren't intended to be an admission of anything.
No, you're right. The context of it, because you don't have the whole thing. You don't know what led up to when the camera started, and you don't know why. There are a lot of unknowns. But unfortunately, it happened, and it's made the news. It's circulating among lawyers. We get this stuff, and oh wow, it's just.
Let me ask you this.
You gotta be kidding me.
Apparently, even the judge who decided to throw this out said that this attorney who did this and then ultimately got fired and everything, or fired by his client, it has a really good reputation for being honest and forthright. And if the judge who threw this out is a comment too was made that this could have just been, he said even the Pope goes to confession, meaning that everyone makes mistakes, right?
Right.
Oh man, what was my point?
But you would think that credibility would carry him a little ways, but it didn't. The judge even overlooked the credibility of this guy being factually accurate in a lot of other settings. And it's like, well, so what? You know?
Oh, this was going to be my question. My question is, how do you think this is going to affect that attorney's career moving forward?
I don't know. There's some people that think, man, ultimately he won that case, and too bad for him for arguing, bragging about it, but he won the case, and it sounds like a really hard case to win. So let's hire him.
Right.
But somebody that's a little bit more judgmental would say, well, I wouldn't. That guy went in his office and started bragging. I'll tell you this, I I thought that the video was kind of laid back. I was expecting some scene where they're all cracked open some beers and champagne and stogies, and they're all dancing around the conference room and stuff like that. I was like, well, it's kind of a docile video. You know, he's standing there just kind of talking in front of a computer screen, and there's people lined up in the hallway, and like, it really wasn't, I mean,
yeah,
content, you know?
Hey, I'm sorry. Could you hold on 1 second? This is the 5th time Logan's calling me, so this may be the first time that the people listening to the podcast get to hear me be a parent if this is not an emergency.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
We're almost done anyway.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Sorry. Hey.
Hey.
Is everything okay?
Yeah, I was asking when you were getting home because.
Are you kidding me? Logan, I'm in the middle of a podcast. I work a job that until 5 o'clock. That has never changed. You called me 5 times. I'm in the middle of a podcast.
Oh, I thought it was only 2 times.
From now on, if you call and I don't answer and it is not an emergency, do not call me back until I call you back. Okay?
All right.
I love you.
Goodbye.
Ay. Everything's fine. He just wanted to know what time I get off work.
Yeah, about the time you always do.
Exactly. So now everybody on the podcast now gets to. I'm leaving that in there.
No problem. I was wrapping it up because I'm about. Anyway, interesting case, interesting podcast fodder. Look forward to comments from people that listen to it on what they think.
Absolutely.
And yeah. And next week we'll be back at Dee's Diner, right? And,
that's right.
Ready to rumble. And I think that's about it. It's a good time of year. By the way, tomorrow I'll be back on the Live at 5 radio stuff, picking all the football games and things like that. So
awesome.
Listen to 102.7 The Game. And as always, if you have any questions about the firm, you can check us out at fwhlegal.com and all of our social media platforms. And we look forward to being able to assist you. Until next time, this has been PJ and Travis. Thank you for listening.
This case should never have come to trial.
I don't think it's fair to call my clients frauds. Because one time I turned into a dog and they helped me. Thank you.
Your Honor, we would like to withdraw our plea of not guilty and enter a plea of guilty.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery, of a sham, of a mockery, of a travesty, of 2 mockeries of a sham.
If we are to have faith in justice, we need only to believe in ourselves.
And the truth shall set you free!
How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Oh, guilty, but with a real good excuse.
I think the truth will come forth.
You can't handle the truth!